Hey guys, hello, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So we're going to get into the big news in just a second, but I want to start by showing you this. A new official poster for The Mandalorian and Grogu goes full Empire Strikes Back. They still haven't confirmed to us if the ice planet is Hoth. The controversial Super Bowl ad from a few months ago showed us Tauntauns, so that seems to suggest the answer might be yes. But just a little appetizer, a little amuse-bouche for you guys. But now let's move on to the big topic of the day.
They wanna wonder.
Okay, so we have our first official data for The Mandalorian and Grogu's opening box office weekend. And in a day or two we should know about the Monday numbers. But after weeks of speculation, different data tracking and predictions, we finally have some concrete figures. This is breaking news, and it's been shared across different outlets. The Mandalorian and Grogu tops global box office with $145 million. Now, how you interpret this is rather subjective. I think across the board we can all agree that it's not great, but is it the disaster some fans are making it out to be? I keep seeing this notion that Star Wars is now officially dead. I disagree. I did have fun with The Mandalorian and Grogu. Was it the best Star Wars movie to put in theaters in 2026? I would argue no, but despite that, and despite my grievances with a lot of Disney Star Wars, as long as there are passionate fans who care about it, Star Wars will never die. It will always bounce back. But what is the truth about these box office numbers? As Screen Daily says, when you look at things through one lens, The Mandalorian and Grogu is the weakest Disney Star Wars opening to date. Much lower than the sequel trilogy, lower than Rogue One, and even lower than Solo. But, viewed another way they say, at the end of the day, The Mandalorian and Grogu is a big screen spin-off of a Disney Plus TV show. It's not the Skywalker saga, it doesn't have any of those main characters, and thus is still of interest essentially to that show's fans, and they say is doing just fine. I don't know if I'd use the same kind of language. I've said this before, but I think the movie is a good 5 years too late. Had this released a few years back, it would have done enormous numbers. This is something Jon Favreau himself has basically admitted when Grogu was at the peak of his popularity. But there are two silver linings. First of all, the budget is significantly lower than Solo's. And second of all, despite The Mandalorian and Grogu's global opening being slightly lower than Solo, it's only behind by a little bit. And according to ComScore's post-track polling, as well as Rotten Tomatoes, the movie is polling well with parents and kids. Not to mention, the audience score is pretty solid. Fans enjoyed the film far more than the critics did. So breaking the numbers down further, my friends, the domestic box office is at an estimated 82 million. Overseas it's 63 million, with the UK and Ireland leading with an estimated 7.1 million. The only major market yet to open is South Korea, who don't get the movie until this coming weekend. So it isn't great. You know, it isn't a saga film and it was made with children in mind, but it's still Star Wars. Star Wars back on the big screen. If you had told anyone a decade ago that a Star Wars movie would open with these kinds of numbers, no one would have believed you. But here we are. I guess we still have to wait for the full 4-day weekend numbers to come in, and it does have the chance to grow. While on the one hand, the film's budget was only $165 million, experts are saying the marketing costs are going to make that figure skyrocket. So how much does The Mandalorian and Grogu have to make to break even, and then make a profit? And are they going to come close? Apparently it's going to be a pretty tall ask. Coming in from Collider this morning, they say The Mandalorian and Grogu needs a box office miracle, and they estimate that when all is said and done, the movie needs to gross between 500 and 600 million just to break even. After the 145 million in the first 3 days, that is a pretty insane demand. This estimate takes into account the film's combined production and marketing budgets, which someone estimated was around 300 million. Movies of this size generally need to gross twice their combined budgets, and while it does seem unlikely in this case, the audience score, which stands at 89%, and good word of mouth, could end up doing wonders for it. But there is another hurdle which The Mandalorian and Grogu is about to face. Outlets are saying that movies like the much anticipated Backrooms could put Mando and Grogu on the back burner. But here's the thing, they're two very different kinds of movies, and I don't know if there's too much overlap in the audience, so I don't know if this is going to be a major problem, but the idea is that, after a week or so, interest in The Mandalorian and Grogu might fizzle out. But do keep in mind, my friends, and this is something I covered a couple of days ago, Disney already admitted they're not too concerned about this box office. They flat out stated, Starfighter is the real test. next year's blockbuster is the one they care about. They claim, and this could just be a PR move, that they always expected the Mando movie to be rather low-key, and even they seem surprised that Kathleen Kennedy and Jon Favreau wanted to put The Mandalorian on the big screen. Although I really shouldn't say Favreau, it was just Kathleen Kennedy who wanted to turn The Mandalorian's 4th season into a film. So I guess we have to be careful in being too doom and gloom about this. I understand this is the first Star Wars movie in 7 years, but it's not the big return Disney was expecting. And from their point of view, it's not as important as a saga movie or next year's Starfighter. And then there are those who say that if we're comparing it to Solo, The Mandalorian and Grogu has a slight edge when it comes to how Disney's going to treat the final numbers. Solo ended up generating $392 million, but its production budget alone was an enormous $275 million, and that's not including the $150 million in marketing costs. So The Mandalorian and Grogu, if it grows with time the next week or so, still stands something of a chance. Another headline talks about one of the big problems with this film is just like the rest of the Mandoverse, it proves that the franchise hinges on the Clone Wars. In a new interview with USA Today, Dave Filoni spoke about how Star Wars is going to go in various different directions. There are lots of different things in the works, some of it relating to Ahsoka, what this article calls a continuation of the animated shows, but he says he's also overseeing other content. We don't know what that is yet, but in terms of The Mandalorian and Grogu, that seems to be a persistent criticism. Rot of the Hutt originates in the 2008 Clone Wars movie, Embo, the debut of Nal Hutta, but just to push back a little bit, unlike some of the other Mandoverse shows, you don't actually need to know who any of these people are in advance, because the movie explains their importance. It's all very surface level, and if you have seen the other content then you might better understand some of their backstories, but the movie does enough to catch everyone up to speed. Even Embo, nothing is said about his role in the Clone Wars, but you understand immediately he's a hired gun for the Hutts, and that's all you need to know. So I understand the criticism because these aren't new characters, but at the same time, they're not throwing us in the deep end. The general audience and kids are not going to be lost because they didn't see specific episodes of the animated shows. But returning to the box office, I don't think these so-called Clone Wars connections have anything to do with its success. But those are the latest figures. Keep an eye open for the Monday numbers, the full 4-day Memorial Day weekend box office. That'll be interesting to see. And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. Also be sure to check out my updated Star Wars movie rankings. I ranked all 12 canon live-action Star Wars films. My list might surprise you. May the Force be with you, always.